All right, thank you so much for staying with Daybreak. You're just in time for the State of the Nation conversation. Like you mentioned, you're talking about politics both regionally and internationally. Tweet at Trevor Mbija at Citizen TV Kenya. Use the hashtag Daybreak. My guest one more time, Dr. Kimani Wamatangi is here, Kiambu Senator and Majority Whip. Dr. Tiende Amolo, Member of Parliament for Ariada is here. Dr. Alfred Mutua, Governor for Machakos, is also here with us. Honorable Samson Cherargei, Nandi Senator, is joining us on Skype. So you'll also be delving into this conversation. Let's start off with the Daily Nation front page. I see it's power women driving politics there. There's a list of power women driving politics in the country, but there's also one that has changed the perspective of politics in Tanzania. President Suluhu is giving a different signal and a complete departure from a predecessor, President John Pombe Magufuli, having allowed the media to operate freely but telling them to stay within the law, having allowed a committee on COVID-19, something they had denied for some time. Now she's almost extending an olive branch to investors and now stopping the inward-looking approach and bringing in the global perspective to Tanzania. And Dr. Mutu, I'll start with you on this. Are we seeing a complete departure from President John Pombe Magufuli's tenure?
I think I am. I think we are, because when I listen to Her Excellency Suluhu, you can tell that she's going towards what is called a pragmatic way of doing things. Not say that Magufuli was not pragmatic, but what she's doing is that she's softening the hard stance that we saw with Magufuli. For example, I had her talk about Jakaya Kikwete, who's a friend of mine, and you see Jakaya Kikwete was an international diplomat who knew that the importance of neighborliness, the importance of living in a world where you're connected to others. Magufuli, to his credit, really concentrated on fixing Tanzania and saying that let us solve our issues. She's not departing from that. But what she's talking about is not basically the ideology, but the format of doing it. You know, she said that tuache code is a dhuluma. And she had a very good reasoning. She said the other day, you come and you want to collect more taxes. So you come to a taxpayer who's not really been paying taxes. What do? You lock them up in jail, you shut down their businesses, you freeze their accounts. So at the end of the day, you're getting zero. So you're actually not adding your taxes. What you should do, find them, encourage them to pay taxes, and make sure they're paying, but don't finish them. Because when you finish all these business people, then you're actually not growing the economy. Okay. So it's a voice, it's more of a reason. But also, I think she's stamping authority. She said something, I don't know whether you noted, wakati baada ya kuapishwa. You know, we've had in the background, there was a lot of push and pull and push, whether she should have been the president or not, whether they wanted to change her when she was vice president, the last few minutes when they knew Magufuli was not doing very well. And she said, mimi sio mwanamke ambaye ni rais. Mimi ni rais ambaye ni mwanamke. I am a president who just happens to be a woman. I'm not just a woman who is a president. So she's saying she has the authority and she's the one in charge. Yeah. And she's going to run Tanzania the way she wants to run Tanzania as a president. So I think we are seeing a good direction, and I think it's very good for us in Kenya, in the region, because as you know, Tanzania and Uganda, even though we're talking about the UK and others, Tanzania and Uganda are our largest trading partners. Okay. Yes.
Cherargei, do you think this is the departure that you're hoping the deputy president himself, who is here, would have from the president? Because, you know, President Suluhu was the deputy president during John Pombe Magufuli's time. It's just that she did not air her differences. She went with what the president said.
I think it is surprising turns of events, because we know CCM in Tanzania as a party is very strong, but President Samia Suluhu Hassan, I think, she has changed everything, and it looks like when she was in the background, she had noted a lot of issues behind the scenes, and I think but I think on the issue, maybe to comment on one or two things, is that I'm happy on taxation policy. I was surprised that she knows that you don't need to strangle taxpayers for you to get a tax, but you can work together to ensure that you get more tax and ensure that the investors and other Tanzanians who are doing business, and also foreigners like Kenyans, can have a good business working environment and still pay taxation, which is very important, contrary to what is happening in Kenya, where we are looking local investors like Keroche Industries, among others, where KRA has been fighting them day and night to ensure that they pay tax, but also killing those businesses. I saw change in COVID pandemic, where he has now said he's forming task force to look at the COVID pandemic in Tanzania, which is direct departure from the previous president who was a scientist, the late John Pombe Magufuli. And also on the issue of media freedom, I think it is very important. I know, Citizen, you know that very well, and it is important that the media freedom has been now allowed, but to work within the law. And I think everywhere across the world, the media freedom should be guarded and protected, because in as much as it informs, it's also part of ensuring that it's constructive criticism. On the issue of diplomacy, I think it is very important because now Samia Suluhu Hassan as the president has recognized that he is part of the global village, and therefore Tanzania cannot be on its own. It cannot be an island. I think she made such a comment that Tanzania must be part of community of the nations across the world. And I think Kenya has headed backwards, especially on diplomacy. And I think finally on the issue of audit report, you realize that immediately she demanded that the audit report was released before changes in cabinet was made. And I don't know whether she did that intentionally, because one of the key issues was the Air Tanzania, that the former president had insisted that was doing very well. But when the audit report was released, there was a lot of billions of shillings that was lost. But for Samia Suluhu Hassan, I think it will assist to work as a community of nations in terms of business, politics, among other elements. If God willing, if President William Ruto becomes the president, the 5th president of the Republic of Kenya, I can tell you is much more better, because we know he's working from the ministry up to the level of the deputy president.
Yeah.
So we are going to see much more better things through him, more than Samia Suluhu Hassan.
Okay. Dr. Tiende, is that possibly true? Because we've seen that you can't collectively bundle a team, because this is a clear departure from what John Pombe Magufuli stood for, and yet she was her deputy at the time as well.
I think it's a few weeks back when we got news that former President John Pombe Magufuli had died, and we discussed that issue here. And I think the question that was posed was John Pombe Magufuli strong as an individual, or was it institutional in terms of the party? And I think we were agreed that the CCM party is, of course, a strong and old party, but that the style of John Pombe Magufuli was individual, because we saw presidents before him with the same law in the same party, but had different approaches. So for me, it is not surprising, therefore, that President Suluhu has come with a slightly different approach. And indeed, at that time, I had advised from the diaspora of Tanzania that it would be good if she really departed from some of the excesses of the former president. So we would say that Rais Suluhu analeta suluhisho. But indeed, I listened to her, and she spoke to 5 things, 3 of which my colleagues have spoken to. We've all spoken to the COVID task force, they've spoken to the media issues, and they've spoken to the issue of investors. Just 2 issues that they may not have mentioned, which she spoke to. One is the question of relations with neighbors. And she made a point that, you know, you cannot be an island. And I think that's very important, because in the later years of President Magufuli, our relations with Tanzania was probably as it worst. So I expect that from now we'll start picking and we'll maintain the good neighborliness we always had. But secondly, she spoke to the issue of taxation. And she made a very good point, that it is good to tax businesses, but it is not good to tax them to the point that they wind up, because then where will you collect the taxes? But 2 cautions. One, as she was talking about forming a task force on COVID, I noticed that everyone in that room, including herself, was not wearing a mask at all, which I thought was very interesting. And, you know, they did not even maintain any social distance. They were all cramped up in one hall, and she's talking about the task force. So I think that task force has its work cut out for it. But secondly, on the question of the media, I think that we will start seeing this a lot, clawbacks. Her speech was very clear in terms of media. But thereafter, I saw what was called a correction by the government spokesman, what Governor Mutua used to do, explaining that what she meant was not to lift the ban on all media houses, but only to lift the ban in terms of social media. That those others who are banned, especially the newspapers, by law, those ones will remain. You know, those kinds of clawbacks. It tells you of a person who is trying to reform, But the government functionaries who are used to doing things in a certain way, and they will always try to claw back, and that is something she'll have to work with.
Okay. Ometangi?
Trevor, good morning.
Morning.
And let me say good morning to our viewers too. Yes, I have to say, Trevor, that I think I like what I see and hear from the president of Tanzania. She shares a lot of commonness with my thought line, especially on economic issues approach.
Yeah.
We share a lot in common. I've been listening to her, and I have to say, just like some of the things I hear her saying. You see, Trevor, there has been a long debate for a long time globally. What's a better solution and what's a better system, protectionism or open market?
Yeah.
And that is one clear approach that she's made, where she wants her country to be, as an open, free trade market, whereby her country will be open to investors and encourage investors. And you know why I say I think I like what she's doing? See, the struggle that most of African states have been having for a long time is raising capital. And that is why you find that most countries in Africa are dependent on donor nations.
Yeah.
They are dependent on the Bretton Woods institutions for funding. You have to make huge concessions just to raise capital to do things. You find that foreign nations have to come and sometimes dictate how you are going to run your country just so that they can give you money. Yet there is a very easy open window, and that is the one that the new president is following. Invite investors, and Governor Mutua has lived that experience and dream in Dubai. Dubai is a very good example, whereby, and I don't have to tell the story here, where you just create an environment that is attractive to investors. They come and bring you their money for free. They pour it in there, and they invest, and your economy booms. And that's why I think I've said she's taken a very good approach towards that.
Okay.
Secondly, is on that issue of taxation. I also admire a lot the approach is taken. I've been asking myself, Trevor, sometimes when you see these guys with big titles and a lot of abbreviations after their names, having claimed to have gone to huge universities and nameless ones, on economics and how to run governments. You ask yourself, why don't they learn from the simplest of what is a good approach to how you deal with your customers? Sometimes I ask myself, Trevor, why do you, somebody who is well in society, why do you go and queue in Bama market for a piece of meat? What is the economic mind that makes people drive from town to Bama to go and eat meat? And that's what I would be advising, economic policy makers and drivers in this country. Don't go to benchmark in Washington as to how you change an economy and how you deal with your taxpayers. If you go to Bama and you're walking around there, Trevor, when you arrive, the first thing that these guys do is they cut a small piece of meat. They tell you taste. And that's the hook.
Yeah.
By the time you go to buy that small chunk like this, you are paying 5 times more. But that time you're no longer in your senses. I mean, what I'm saying is that they have already captured you properly, in good sense, by inviting you and befriending you. That is the kind of situation that you need in an economy. Ask yourself, Trevor, why go to a Catholic church Sunday and wait and see what the father does. He is armed there with nothing but water and maybe and the book. And wait for offertory time. And you ask, why do countries struggle to ask what kind of environment do you need to create and what do you need to say to people to give you money from their pockets, even if it is taxpayers? The Catholic father will stand there, say good things, whatever, give you hope, and read the book, and then pour water, and then he stands there and holds his hand and says, it's offertory time. And people queue. And they come and put money, and he says, now it is time to tithe. They come and bring money. What does he give? Whom does he strangle? Whom does he threaten?
People
you get
give
what
willingly.
I mean, I think we have big lessons to learn from some of those very small institutions
Yeah.
that have perfected the art of creating the environment that is right,
Okay.
for growing a healthy economy.
All right.
Yeah.
Dismas Mokua here says that President Samia Suluhu remained loyal and did not disturb President Magufuli. She did not retain sycophants to make the president uncomfortable. And this brings me to the front page of the Daily Nation. Power women driving politics. We see a list of them there. Is it time, Dr. Mutua, for Kenya to consider female president? We remove all of you, Akina, you and the front runners, and get a female president.
I don't think it's time we just say that just because you're a woman, you can just be handed over power. It doesn't work like that. I liked what Mother Karua said. Mother Karua said that she's not in power because she's a woman. She's in power because it's her. And she said that other women can also be her. I mean, look at Charity Ngilu, a very superb woman. She doesn't want things handed over to her. You see, and Suluhu has worked her way up the regiment to become the deputy president. It was not handed over to her. So the issue is not whether we want men to move aside and let women rule. We need a woman to work her way up and be able to rule, because women can do it very well. I mean, we've seen examples of women leading in this continent who've actually run for presidency and won. And so it is not an issue of handover and affirmative action. It is an issue of getting the right person.
Yeah.
We want the right person to take over leadership of this country after this experiment that has been there with Uhuru and Ruto.
Yeah.
So we want to recover our country and bring it back to where it's supposed to be.
Are you considering a female running mate?
I will consider an individual who really will help me work. You see, I feel sorry for Uhuru Kenyatta because you see, my friend here is already already talking, and you've listened to. No, I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed with Dr. Amatangi today. It's not a rare show of intelligence, but very high intelligence, and expressed himself very well. He's earned a few more bonga points in my consideration. He's done very, very well. Congratulations. Very succinct and also dictionary there. No, I will consider somebody who will not also bother me. You see, as I said a long time ago, is that Uhuru Kenyatta has been in a government whereby he is actually anasonga mbele mtu anamtoa suruali. And that is the main problem we've had in Kenya, because his deputy has always wanted to be the president. And from the time when they got into power, the deputy started campaigning to be president. And that's why actually I think the problem of this economy right now, because instead of having two people, we've only had one person campaigning, the other one trying to rule this country. A lot of problems. I know you like football. Let me give you a simple example, give a long time ago. You've got a team, you've got a captain, and you've got a deputy captain, and you're playing a match against another ferocious team called poverty, unemployment, and everything. And you've got spectators out there. Now, when it comes to playing, the captain is there guiding the team, and then you realize that the deputy captain has left, has gone to the stands to cheer and to get bonga points and tell people I can be a better captain. You wait, you'll see, here shika pesa kidogo, jenga hii. So the captain is there playing by himself. And that is exactly what's happened in this country. And we need to wake up and open our eyes and realize that the rest of the world laughs at Kenya. Because when you're standing outside this country, it is so obvious where the problems are. It is so obvious that Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto have not been able to work together, and we have suffered as a result in this country. And the question that you asked Chirangai that he never replied is, Suluhu was a very loyal deputy. Is that why she's ascended very well to where she is, rather than what we are seeing, when compared to what we are seeing in this country?
Okay. Let's bring up Cherargei on that and for him to respond. Does DP Ruto abandon the President Uhuru Kenyatta? And also we were talking about the female
Thank you very much.
president.
I want to advise Governor Mutua that he's punching way above his weight. Because, of course, there is a certain obsession he has with the deputy president, but that is beside the point. What I want to say is that all politicians have their own ambitions. And I saw him a few weeks or a few months ago after the first wave campaigning in counties. And yet he's the executive governor of Machakos. Does it mean that he abdicated his responsibility as the governor and went out campaigning? and he used to do even on a weekly day. So what I can say is that we should put the blame where it is. President Uhuru Kenyatta is the executive, is the CEO of the Republic of Kenya, but the buck stops with him, is the decision maker. So this ulabalu that the deputy president has been disloyal, no one can prove. There has been even pedestrian talk that he has been insulting the president. No one has proof of that. So what I can say at this point is that people who want to succeed President Uhuru Kenyatta have realized, because of the differences of President Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto, I've realized the more you attack the deputy president, the more likely you will get endorsements from the state house operatives who are basically creating kingpins across the region. And it's unfortunate that Governor Mutua is not among the favorite of the tribal kingpins that they are trying to create on a campaign. Because if he was among, of course, you would have seen him as part of One Kenya Alliance, among others. And therefore, it is very unfortunate, and I want to say that and advise Governor Mutua that he should tell the country what he intends to do, not to attack the deputy president. The deputy president has given an example that in future, he wants to fix the economy using bottom-up approach like President Joe Biden in the US. So Governor Mutua should be giving us what is his alternative of what President Uhuru Kenyatta has and wanton and insatiable appetite in borrowing. Those are valid questions that we should have as a country. But reducing into unnecessary of saying so-and-so did campaign or not, or William Ruto did not. By the way, let me put it on record as I conclude, Trevor, so that my colleagues can add on, is that there is no day that Deputy President Dr. William Ruto has campaigned. As a politician, all of us sitting here in studio, and us who are doing it virtually, is that when you campaign, you wear branded T-shirts, you bring posters, you brand your cars. There is no day that Dr. William Ruto has campaigned. What he has done is what normally all politicians do. When you are elected, you don't stay in Nairobi. You go and visit your people. You see projects. You inspect projects. You launch projects. And that is what the Dr. William Ruto has been doing. And I don't know why people are uncomfortable when he walks around the country going to church service. Does going to church service amount to campaigning? No, I don't think so. All of us go to church service. All of us attend church services and many others. So I would want to ask Governor Mutua that my brother kindly tell the Kenyans what you do for them instead of punching above your weight. You know, in this race, there are only horses, and I can assure Dr. William Ruto is the horse. Maybe you can just wait for endorsement from State House, and then you can try to chew, come and walk at the same time.
Okay, Dr. Tiende. Is there a day that
let's disabuse something here, because I hear it all the time.
Yeah.
And my brother Chirege has just done it. That you isolate the president for whatever failures and say the deputy president is not part of it because the president is the chief executive and all that, and then say now the deputy president will do it better. Let us do it in terms of law, not politics. And I want to read to Senator Chirege, just to remind him, first to read Article 130 of the Constitution. It says the national executive of the Republic comprises the president, the deputy president, and the rest of the cabinet. It does not say the president. Then 131 says the president will exercise, 132 actually, the president exercises that authority with the assistance of the deputy president. You go to 152. There is nowhere where the executive authority is bestowed only on the president. It is the president, his deputy, and the cabinet. And it was very intentional. Our previous constitution bestowed on the president certain executive powers as president. But we intentionally went for what we call a joint executive, where the president, his deputy, and the cabinet are all joined and intertwined in it. So no one in the present administration, no cabinet minister, no deputy president can extract themselves from the successes or failures of this administration. They must stand with it or fall with it, and that is the law. Okay. So let's not try to politicize. Secondly, I think there's a lesson to be learned in the case of Tanzania, and the lesson is patience. We've just discussed how President Suluhu is now coming with different ideas, which clearly are different from what John Pombe Magufuli held. it is not that she's just developed those ideas overnight. She had them even then. But because she was deputy, she understood that when you're deputizing somebody, you deputize. The moment you feel fundamentally aggrieved or of a different opinion, then you exit. You stop being deputy. But if you have your own ideas, you withhold them until such time as your time comes.
Yeah.
But the third point is, I think it is a good thing and a breath of fresh air that in East Africa, we have for the first time a president who's female,
yeah.
not a female president,
yeah.
a president who's female. And that is important. It is important because while we allowed it, President Suluhu was not made vice president just because she was a woman. She was made vice president because her antecedents had demonstrated that she was able. Mm-hmm. And those antecedents give people the comfort to know that even as president, she can perform.
Yeah.
And therefore, we must emphasize that any able individual, even if they're a woman who's able to perform, should be given the opportunity. But not just because you're a woman,
yeah.
but because you are able, but a woman.
Yeah, we do see quite a list here. Is it time that we also went that direction?
Well,
to have a president who is female, not a female
to,
who is
to be fair to Kenyans,
yeah.
I think we've seen this quite a bit. We've not had any woman who has ascended to the highest office so far because of the paternalistic structure of our society. But we have had women who have ascended to fairly high levels. You will remember that it was in my part of the world that the first female was ever elected, Honorable Grace Onyango. In those days that no one imagined any woman could be elected an MP. And you've seen very many powerful women who've come up and even vied for president and done very well. For example, I think in 1997, Charity Ngilu did very well as a presidential candidate. And we've seen women who performed very well as governors, even as ministers and all. So I think we're coming of age. Okay. And that is to be encouraged.
All right. Ometangi?
Yes, Trevor, I think starting with that first issue on is it about time, as you've said, that we went that way and sought to promote one of our able ladies to be president. And I think it would be wrong first to make that the epitome of aspiration for every woman. That the only definition then of success for our women will be when they are sent to the presidency. Because Trevor, in my mind, and from what I know, is that our women are doing very well, and they've been doing very well all the time. And you just need to look broadly at our landscape, you know, in various sectors, and you see that what we have become, the kind of country we are, in our successes, women have played a major role. I mean, go to the judiciary. The acting chief justice now is a woman, isn't it? Go to the cabinet. How many able women who have made a landmark success in the dockets that they've been given, they are there. You know, go to the education sector. It is full of women who have changed the education sector. Everywhere, anywhere, wherever you go, in the corporate world, Trevor,
yeah.
We have women who are CEOs, who are running big companies, holding major positions. And so what we need to do is to encourage our women, our ladies, to do what they are doing now and do it even better. And they should not feel that they've come short just because one of them have not been president. I mean, time will come to be sooner or later, one of them will be president. But as it is, we are on the right track. I think we've made major milestones. I've had this discussion whereby a lot of times we are being compared with Rwanda, with sometimes other countries. They are doing very well. They have got so many women in parliament. But if you look at the collective input of Kenyan women and how they shine. I've been around the world and you know, in various capacities. And if you go to countries like Dubai, some of the positions that our women occupy in the corporate world as managers are major, big, very respected. And so I just have respect for what our women are doing. And I don't think I want to say at any one time that I feel that they are not doing what they should. I think time will just come. Now, on this discussion that you had on you know, how do we run to national success and feel and feel that we are doing the right thing, especially as political leaders, because that's what my colleagues were debating. And as I was listening on this debate of what is the deputy president doing, what is the president not doing, and who should be doing what, you know, Trevor, I think one of the key ingredients we have failed to have ourselves as a country is a proper model that will at all times ensure that any administration that comes into leadership finally carries the responsibility to the end, such that when an administration has been given the responsibility to run this country for that period of 5 years, that there is a system that also will give Kenyans the opportunity to judge them correctly. But you see, this is mired in many ways, because first, our electoral system is compromised. It's bogus, to say the least. Because the only thing you need to do to go and gain a political seat here is not to go and show your record of performance. It is go and pour vitriol, be as tribalistic as you can, hate as much as you can, bribe as much as you can, then you've got a seat of power. And that is what has promoted the rot you see in political leadership right now. And until such a time when we have a system that is not only respectable but fomented in law. The way you find, for example, like in the US, when somebody is running for president with a running mate, they start to define not only what they have stood for, but even how they are identified. Remember when George Bush was leaving office and John McCain was trying to run for the presidency. The big debate was, is McCain coming in to become or to run the Bush show, because it is known that those were the principles and policies of the Republican Party. And people can predict and know that when this president comes in with his ideals, with the policy of this party, with what the manifesto of this party has already forwarded and the ideals they stand for, this is what we expect. And that is what we don't have. Until we have in our political leadership that kind of formation, those kind of principles, then we will continue to have this thing that you can never predict. You just be wondering what will happen when Wamatangi becomes president. And you only wait for me to show it, and no matter how bad it is.
Mutu, I'll give you a chance to respond to Gerard Gave really quick before we move on to the next conversation. In fact, Honorable Moses Kuria Gatundu South says here, the question is it time for a female president? Then it turns into a discussion about William Ruto. He adds to say, I thought William Ruto is a man.
You know, I don't want to reply to Chirengai, because there's, when I used to do debate, when there's nothing to reply to, because, you know, there's nothing solid he said that I really need to reply to, because it's just going to the same tantrums that they go through. Najua hii wanaitwa super sycophants. So they miss the main point that you're trying to make, and they just go personal. So I'm not going to reply to them. All I can say is that he's talking about us being included in this old KANU alliance. Wazee wa KANU. We've seen the cartoon in the Nation Today and all that. We are not interested. You know, people need to realize that some of us really love this country, and we really want to see the change. And as a young person, I have traveled all over the world. I've lived overseas. I've lived here. I know what ails us. And what ails us is a type of sycophantic leadership that is not based on principles of really reviving the economy. It's this infighting, the tribalism, you know, asking people what tribe you're from and all that as a judgment instead of getting the right person. And, you know, if we've been served and there's a chef and a deputy chef and in the kitchen and they're cooking for us, and every time they bring the meal, we get a stomach upset and we are running to the toilet all the time. You don't want to say that, you know, you always have to wonder whether what is happening in the kitchen, because it is a collaboration between, as Dr. Senior Counsel has said, between the president and the deputy president. So you cannot divorce the two. And that's the point I was trying to make. And the point was for us to be able to go forward. And you asked me whether I can have a woman as a president. Yeah, I'd like to have a woman as my deputy. If it's a woman who I'll work with, because loyalty is very important. We say in politics, the 5 most important things when you're choosing a running mate is loyalty, 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 and then ability to work. Loyalty is very important. Because if somebody is not loyal to you, then they cause the problems that we have seen in this country. And Suluhu is where she is because she was loyal, not just because she was a woman. She was loyal and she was able to work well, and she was not out there trying to campaign to be the next president. She was working very well with the president, and that's why she's been rewarded with this seat that she actually earned.
All right. I have to take a quick break here. When we come back, we talk about the issues around the IMF loans that's also there, and then the medical equipment scheme. Apparently, on page 9 there, we see that the price is even higher now. Counties are supposed to pay 1 billion more for leasing the project. All right? We'll find out why that's happening, knowing all too well that there is some equipment that is gathering dust in the counties. That in just a bit.